Wait, members. 2 or 3 say.
And you check the background.
Mahendra, when you will give a green signal, then only I'll start.
Yes. I have started from my YouTube.
Shall I start now?
Yes.
Yeah, please.
Okay. A very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the proud family of Devaditya Foundation, where we strongly believe in rise by lifting others, I, Dr. Meeta Shah, extend a warm welcome to all the participants and our respected speakers for this event today for an informative session on emotional intelligence and its regulations. It is both an honor and privilege to be your host today and welcome you all to this learned community. It is my pleasure to welcome all the participants today for this international webinar. I extend a hearty welcome to our eminent guest speakers from all over the globe. Like it's evening time for us, but some of the speakers, they have just got up. It's like morning time, morning 4 a.m. for them. But it it really shows their dedication that they made it possible for our foundation. Our heartfelt thanks to you, dear speakers. Uh, and these speakers, they come from different walks of life who have come here to share their knowledge and vast experience. Amid COVID-19 and the subsequent transformation of our lives, we now have a great opportunity to integrate better mental health practices into our daily routine. One way to do so is to focus more on building emotional intelligence. But what is emotional intelligence? It is basically the ability of an individual to understand, use, and manage one's own emotions in positive ways, to relieve stress, communicate effectively, empathize with others, overcome challenges, and most important, diffuse conflicts. This has five key elements: self awareness, self regulation, motivation, empathy, and the very much required social skills. As the COVID 19 pandemic has been taking us to the new normal, the new age world would look for new skill sets. In the new normal world, digitalization is taking place at a very fast pace. In fact, this webinar is also an outcome of this digitalization. It requires all of us to equip ourselves with the upcoming practices and upgrade ourselves. Emotional intelligence will be an essential soft skill to help us to improve ourselves. When the sound of the ambulance is heard, very often there is a stress that one has to cope up with, and one has to develop emotional balance, to aspire for soft skills, to re engineer our minds for the new normal. Individuals with more emotional intelligence are more successful in life. This is as per a research undertaking. Let me share here, Mahatma Gandhi did not have a very strong IQ, but he had a very high emotional intelligence quotient. This webinar would be a session focusing on creating awareness and will lead to knowledge enhancement. Emotional intelligence and its regulations is an opportunity to learn how to outline the characteristics of emotions and their importance in human social behavior. It will explain the effects of emotional intelligence on love, happiness, and work, and also explain how emotional intelligence helps in dealing with mental disorders, chronic disorders, and stress management. Thus, this webinar will help in developing a framework for understanding emotional intelligence and pave way for its effective application. Now, without taking much of your time, although I have just expressed the basics of emotional intelligence, for the in-depth knowledge, we have our expert speakers here. I would introduce our eminent guests for today. Our first speaker for this webinar is Ma'am Rania Lambu from Greece. She has been awarded almost 24 national and international awards. She's also a finalist for Global Teacher Prize 2019 and a Global Teacher Award 2020 winner. She is a passionate researcher on cognitive neurosciences and psychology. She's founder and international coordinator for international projects. She's also an author for scientific books for children. She promotes STEM vision by introducing STEM in astronomy and physics. I also wish to mention here that MAN has received an honor from African Transformer Institute for her outstanding contributions to education and development. Congratulations, dear ma'am, from Team Devaditya. She is currently working at the Greek Ministry of Education at the Directorate of Education and Technology. It is indeed an impressive profile. That is all I can say, ma'am. And I'm sure the audience would benefit from your experience and knowledge. We welcome you, dear ma'am. We have with us here today respected Dr. Manisha Gaur ma'am from Indore. Ma'am is a trailblazer in every sense of humanity. She is a rare talent of unwavering optimism. She has spent years making people master their own destiny. The experience and transformation her followers go through are profound. She is an international motivational speaker, celebrity life coach, NLP master trainer, career counselor, writer, and peace activist. Ma'am is a true gem in all senses and has immense knowledge to bring about transformation. And as an outcome of this, she has been guiding and counseling people around her. Let me share with you all that her biggest asset is her simplicity, which attracts people towards her. We are overwhelmed with your precious presence, dear ma'am. We welcome you. Our next guest for today is respected Dr. Cassandra Lee Clare, who is currently a professor at Texas State University, USA. Mann is an author, professor, and relationship expert. She is an expert in communicating feelings and improving connections. Mann is on a mission to educate individuals on how to have effective and healthy communication to enhance their relationships. Her debut book, Being Whole, Healing from Trauma and Reclaiming My Voice, encourages people to recognize and own all aspects of their identity to live a more authentic and meaningful life. We welcome you, dear ma'am. Our next guest speaker for the event, but unfortunately, sir could not make it for this event due to some personal issues, but some family issues. But I wish to mention about him here. He is Dr. Dheeraj from Gurgaon, India. He has an experience of more than 20 years. Sir has a physiotherapy clinic at Gurgaon, India. He is a former HOD of Physiotherapy Department, Columbia, Asia. Sir has a global experience with all age groups, working with handicapped children internationally. His experience and work patterns have great contribution in the medical field, especially in restoration of patients when medicines have a limited role to offer, and application of love and care as a therapy to cure. We feel blessed with your august presence, but unfortunately, sir, you could not make it for this event. So we surely look forward to your presence in our upcoming events. Our next speaker is Ma'am Susie Vibrial, based in Texas and expanding around the globe because of her heart for children. This non-profit organization is born out of love and a desire to give back by providing children a fresh start. Man has her PS and MS in psychology and is currently pursuing her doctorate. She's also working on a book regarding child abuse awareness and challenges. Madam also has a jazz rock band, which is very unlikely, but still a very nice thing to happen. She is a member of Texas Women for Children through the Nation Center for Missing and Exploited Children. She is also a peace ambassador for Texas through the Global Peace Challenge. Our, it's an achievement for us to have you with us here today. We welcome you, dear ma'am. Our last speaker for today was supposed to be Dr. Mukta Singh from Tanzania, but unfortunately, she would also not be making it for this webinar due to certain personal reasons. But I also wish to mention the profile that she carries. Ma'am is an occupational therapist, MUTH pediatrics. Ma'am has an experience of 8 years in handling children with special needs like autism, CPAHD, LD, etc. Having you today here with us would have surely helped us in developing a good insight on our theme. Let me also share that ma'am is the wife of a convener, Mr. Indra Bhuvan Singh, sir, and they both complement each other, which is the driving force for the couple to serve the society at large. We wish to have you for our upcoming initiatives, dear ma'am. Before we begin this event formally, I also wish to introduce the mind behind this webinar, who planned and executed his vision, arranging for all the requirements to let this happen today. That too, with loads of positivity and a vibrant smile all the time. Our very own Mr. Indra Bhuvan Kumar Singh, sir, from Tanzania. Sir is a CEO at METL Agro Limited. He is a CEO, business head, mentor, coach, and entrepreneur trainer. He has over 15 years of experience. Sir has a book entitled The New Ways of Self Transformation on his name. So he feels closely associated with this topic of the webinar. This is your event, sir. Still, I extend a warm welcome to you. Last but not the least, the indispensable part of this webinar who has an active role right from the initiation to completion. I welcome our technical coordinator, very positive and supporting Professor Makhan Kubakar sir from Christian Eminent College, Indore. Sir is a technical advisor for CEPRD and GFRAD. He has given his valuable contribution for more than 91 webinars right from the time this lockdown started, and we are this post-lockdown period is going on, which is
Thank you.
commendable for sure. Thank you for being here with us today, sir. Now, over to Indra Bhuvan Kumar Singh, sir, to throw light on Devaditya Foundation and then mark the beginning of this webinar by inviting our first speaker to give this webinar a formal start. Thank you so much. Over
Thank you.
to Indra Bhuvan Singh, sir.
Thank you so much, Professor Mita ma'am, for your wonderful introduction. And,
My pleasure, sir.
and, on behalf of Devaditya Foundation, I would like to pay my heartiest thanks to all my guest speakers and who accepted my invitation in a very short span of time and keep patience because last time also it was cancelled because of some unavoidable reason. But it's a really great pleasure to see all my guest speakers at this platform from all across the globe, from Greece, from USA, from India, from Tanzania. So it's looking really fantastic, and I'm really speechless by your kindness and by your all humbleness. Before starting of this webinar, let me have some a few insight about this Devaditya Foundation, how it's formed. This Devaditya Foundation is recently founded in a small city of Jharkhand, Bokaro still city, very small town from Jharkhand, India. And the name of this foundation, Devaditya, that name belongs to Lord Sun in India, according to Indian culture and Hindu religion. And Lord Sun represents the stands for light and energy, who is giving energy and light to all across the world. So Devaditya, it means symbol of positivity. Devaditya means symbol of energy, symbol of purity, symbol of transparency. What we all feel in this current COVID-19, when we see from last 1 year, from almost last 9 to 10 months, and how this world is changing day by day because of this current pandemic situation, whether it's India or USA or any part of the world. No any part of the world is unaffected by this pandemic. And what I feel personally, what is the need of the hour? We should understand each other. We should develop the emotional intelligence. We have feelings, we have respect, we have trust on each other, which is highly required in this current scenario. And when we started this foundation, the purpose, the agenda is very clear, how we can contribute for the upliftment, for the betterment of the societies. Our overall mission of this foundation to help the needy peoples, especially for the special children, those who are under special needs like autism, like learning disabilities, mentally retarded, cerebral palsy. So many sort of disabilities in some children, which I feel as a human being, as a personality, it's our moral responsibility to support them, motivate them, encourage them to come into main track of life. Because we all are human beings and gifted with some special qualities. For me, all children are special. And every children has his own capabilities. What we need to channelize them. We need to give direction. So they can become self-dependent. Our agenda is not to make them dependent, or they should depend on some sort of donorship. Our agenda to create some sort of activities, some sort of employment creation, so they can feel comfortable. They should not have feeling of that they are going to be liability on someone, because children are very pure. Children are symbol of God. They are the form of God. And we should have feelings for that emotion. So this all agenda is behind this foundation, where how we can do the overall socio-economic development of those kind of children, so they can uplift their life, they can live their standard life. That is our core agenda behind that. In addition to that, we are doing some projects very soon after this COVID-19 pandemic in India, where we are going to organize some sort of awareness campaign for this kind of children, for this kind of women also, so they can understand what is required. Most of times in any part of the world, especially these autistic children, sometimes parents, whether it's a wife or husband, they are unable to diagnose, they are unable to find out whether my children has symptoms or not, signs or not. You cannot tell them by looking at the some activities of child. No, no, he's autistic. It's a very negative. It's a very, very negative mindset of parents. Sometimes, in some cases, parents are not ready to accept this truth. Their children have some problem, any sort of. It can be learning disabilities, it can be CP or whatever. So this kind of awareness campaign or camp, they can create the bridge between child and parents, between child and teachers. Because knowledge and education, these two things are very important in life to understand anything. So this, we are going to organize this kind of camp in India, in this Jharkhand. And same time, we are trying for this meditation classes and vocational training centers for women and children. And above all, what I feel, career counseling. Career counseling is also important for this kind of children, this kind of women, where they can choose their pathway, where they can choose their career. What is right, what is wrong, what is required, because every individual has their own capabilities, has their own talent. And what, as a foundation, as a group, we can do, we can help them to identify their capability so that they can do their best part in their life. So let's join hands together. Let's touch the impossible and try to bring some smiles on these kind of children, on their faces, and let's work for humanity. That's my agenda, and that's our Devaditya Foundation. And I will not take too much time from all your schedule. And once again, thank you so much to all my guest speakers, my audience who is going to listen this webinar for their precious time. And if this webinar can change somebody's perception, can change somebody's thought process, we all will feel humble and honored, and God will be gracious because of this noble cause which today we are doing for the betterment of peoples. So once again, thank you so much from my bottom of heart to all of you. And now I would like to continue this momentum of webinar. I would like to invite the first speaker of this webinar. Already this wonderful introduction given by Professor Meeta Shah ma'am, our the renowned speaker, Dr. Rani Alampu. Welcome ma'am, and it's our pleasure, and and we feel very humble and honored today you are with us, and my whole team, and my all audience, they are highly excited and delighted to listen your all this information and your wonderful knowledge, so that they can change their perception toward this emotional intelligence balances, how they can improve their life. So once again, thank you so much, ma'am. And now, stage is yours. So please, ma'am.
Good evening from Greece. Thank you very much for your kind invitation to be a part of this enriching and resourceful webinar. My name is Rania Lambu. I'm a STEM instructor and an ICT teacher trainer, and also a neuroeducation researcher. Currently, I'm working at the Greek Ministry of Education at the Directorate of Educational Technology and Innovation. And today we're going to explore the concept of emotional intelligence and how it is shaped by the new normal. And at the same time, I'm going to suggest some effective strategies, especially teaching strategies, based on principles of cognitive neurosciences. May I share my screen?
Yeah. Professor Makan, sir. Professor Makan.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. You can share.
Yeah. Rania, ma'am, you can.
Yes. So, COVID has unleashed a wave of innovation as well as new innovation challenges. It has created the need for organizations, societies, and individuals to adapt quickly to shifts and design techniques and practices to experiment and explore new options. The profound economic and social effects of the crisis have made a substantial redefinition of the dominant paradigm imperative. So I believe that COVID is the shake-up needed to restructure the system. I strongly also believe that the COVID crisis could also be a great resetter of economy, societies, and education, an opportunity to bring forward long-awaited reforms for development. The crisis has stimulated innovative approaches within many sectors. Within this framework, talking about a rapid recovery and return to the former situation is not realistic. So here the role of emotional intelligence and emotional stability on confronting crisis in general and the existing crisis, which has global effect, is of utmost importance. So the COVID pandemic has shown the need for change in all fields. The post-COVID era requires us to develop special skills in order to survive and thrive in the uncertain world of the new normal. Flexibility, adaptability, and resilience are necessary survival skills. What are the differences? Adaptable person is a person who is able or willing to change in order to face different conditions. A flexible person can do this easily. A resilient person is someone who can recover quickly from difficult and unexpected conditions and is very able to adapting and change on a regular basis. So new literacies are required. Of course, there are this data literacy, technological literacy, but the most important of all is the human literacy. Data literacy, why? Because we are expecting to have the capabilities of reading, analyzing, utilizing information, the big data. We should also have technological literacy, since online learning and blended learning has become an important part of our daily lives. And of course, human literacy, because we need that in order for us to function as human beings. The fourth industrial revolution has equipped societies with highly powerful tools. Some countries have managed to leverage these tools in order to win the fight in the post-COVID era. However, in states that do not have technological infrastructures, leadership has emerged as a vital tool. So, for example, teachers were forced to follow the words of the eminent American President Theodore Roosevelt, who said, in doing what they can with what they have. That means that where our leaders do not have technology resources to combat this threat, they must have the heart, brain, and soul Therefore, countries that were unable to immediately leverage the capabilities of the fourth industrial revolution must turn to strategic action. Our current reality calls for responsible leadership. During the COVID pandemic, for example, educators were not anymore unsung heroes. We became celebrated heroes and real leaders. And we should not forget the fact that real heroes are not born, they are forged in crisis and inspire people through difficult times. What distinguishes leaders? The most effective leaders are alike in one crucial way. They all have a high degree of what we call emotional intelligence. It's not that IQ and technical skills are irrelevant. They do matter, of course, but mainly as threshold capabilities. That means that they are simply the entry-level requirements for executive positions. But according to recent studies, emotional intelligence is the sine qua non of leadership. Without it, a person can have the best training in the world, may have an inclusive, analytical mind and an endless supply of smart ideas, but that won't make him a great leader. This concept was introduced, of course, by Daniel Goleman, which is best known for his writing on emotional intelligence. He's the co-director of the Consortium for Research on Emotional Intelligence. Emotional intelligence is a group of 5 skills that enable the best leaders to maximize their own and their followers' performance. The 5 skills are self-awareness, knowing someone's strengths, weaknesses, drives, values, and impact on others; self-regulation, controlling or redirecting disruptive impulses and moods; motivation, realizing achievement for its own sake; empathy, that means we can understand other people's emotional makeup; social skill, building rapport, relation with others to move them in desired directions. So the first 3 components are self-management skills. The last 2, empathy and social skills, concern a person's ability to manage relationships with others. We are born with certain levels of emotional intelligence skills, but we can also enhance these abilities through practice. Here we can see also some definition. Can emotional intelligence be learned? For ages, people have debated if leaders are born or made. The same happens with the debate about emotional intelligence. Are people born with certain levels of empathy, for example, or do they acquire empathy as a result of life's experiences? So the answer is both. Scientific inquiry strongly suggests that there is a genetic component to emotional intelligence. Psychological and developmental research indicates that nurture plays a role as well. So how much of which perhaps will never be known, but research and practice clearly demonstrate that emotional intelligence can be learned. And one thing is certain, that emotional intelligence increases with age. There is an old-fashioned word for this phenomenon that we call maturity. However, even with maturity, there are some people who still need training to enhance their emotional intelligence. According to Daniel Goleman, we have 2 brains, 2 minds, 2 different kinds of intelligence, rational and emotional. This is based also on the theory of Howard Gardner's multiple intelligence theory about the integration of the 2 hemispheres of the brain. The left one is the right part of the brain, and which is the part of logics and analyze, and the right part of the brain is the part of intuition, imagination, and creativity. What is now the neurological foundation of emotional intelligence? Emotional intelligence is born largely in the neurotransmitters of the brain's limbic system, which governs feelings, impulses, and drives. The limbic system learns best through motivation, extended practice, and feedback. On the other hand, we have the learning which happens in the neocortex of the brain, which grasps concepts and logic. It is the part of the brain that figures on how to use a computer, for example, or how to make a sales. Unfortunately, here we can see one. Unfortunately, far too many training programs that intend to build leadership skills, including emotional intelligence, sometimes are a waste of time. Why? Because they insist on the learning based on neocortex, based on analysis and logic, and they ignore the limbic system. So they do training about emotional intelligence without taking into consideration the limbic system, which is the center of emotions. It is the part of the brain that needs to be enhanced, especially by teachers and trainers. It must help people to break old behavioral habits and establish new ones. So we can see which one of the components of emotional intelligence. Self-awareness is the first component of emotional intelligence. It means having a deep understanding of one's emotions, strengths, weaknesses, needs, and drives. People with strong awarenesses are neither overly critical nor unrealistically hopeful. Rather, they are honest with themselves and with others. People who have a high degree of self-awareness recognize how their feelings affect them, other people, and their job performance. What about self-regulation? Biological impulses drive our emotions. We cannot do away with them, but we can do much to manage them. Self-regulation, which is like an ongoing inner conversation, is the component of emotional intelligence that frees us from being prisoners of our feelings. So people engaged in such a conversation feel bad moods and emotional impulses, just as everyone else does, but they found always ways to control them and even to channel them in useful ways. Why does self-regulation matter so much for leaders? First of all, people who are in control of their feelings and impulses, that is, people who are reasonable, are able to create an environment of trust and fairness. In such an environment, conflicts are sharply reduced and productivity is higher. People who have mastered their emotions are able to roll with the changes. What about motivation? If there is one feature that virtually all effective leaders have, it is motivation. They are driven to achieve beyond expectations, their own and everyone else's. The key word here is what? Is to achieve. Plenty of people are motivated by external factors, such as a big salary or the status that comes from having an impressive title or being part of a prestigious company. By contrast, those with leadership potential are motivated by a deeply embedded desire to achieve for the sake of achievement. If you're looking for leaders, how can we identify people who are motivated by the drive to achieve rather than by external rewards? The first sign is the passion for the work itself. Such people seek usually out creative challenges. They love to learn. They take great pride in a job well done. They also display an immense energy to do things better. People with such energy often seem restless with the status quo. They're persistent with their questions about why things are done one way rather than another. They're eager, of course, to explore new approaches to their work. What about empathy? Of all the dimensions, empathy is the most easily recognized. We all have felt the empathy of a sensitive teacher, for example, or a friend. We have all been struck by the absence of empathy in an unfeeling coach or boss. But when it comes to business, we rarely hear people praised, let alone rewarded for their empathy. The very word seems unbusinesslike, out of place within the tough realities of the marketplace. But empathy doesn't mean a kind, I'm okay, you're okay. It's not that. For a leader, it doesn't mean adopting other people's emotion as our own and trying to please everybody. It's not that. That would be probably a nightmare. It would make action impossible. Rather than that, empathy means thoughtfully considering employees' or colleagues' feelings along with other factors in the process of making intelligent decisions. Empathy is particularly important today as a component of leadership for at least three reasons: the increasing use of teams, the rapid pace of globalization, and the growing need to retain talent. Very important social skills. As a component of emotional intelligence, social skills is not as simple as it sounds. It's not just a matter of friendliness. Social skills, rather, is friendliness with a purpose, moving people in the direction we desire, whether that's an agreement or a new marketing strategy or enthusiasm about a new project. Socially skilled people tend to have a wide circle of acquaintances, and they have a knack for finding common grounds with people of all kinds, a knack for building rapport. That doesn't mean that they socialize continually. It means they work according to the assumption that nothing important gets done alone. Such people have a network usually in place when the time for action comes. Social skills is the culmination of the other dimensions of emotional intelligence. People tend to be very effective at managing relationships when they can understand and they control their own emotions and they can empathize with the feelings of others. Even motivation contributes to social skills. Remember that people who are driven to achieve tend to be optimistic even in the face of setbacks or failure. When people are upbeat, enthusiastic, their glow is cast upon conversations and other social encounters. They're popular, and they're popular for a good reason, because it is the outcome of the other dimensions of emotional intelligence. Social skills is recognizable on the job, usually in many ways, but that will by now sound familiar. Social skilled people, for instance, are adept at managing teams. That's their empathy at work. Likewise, they are expert persuaders. This is a manifestation of self-awareness, self-regulation, and empathy combined. And of course, motivation, when it is publicly visible, makes such people excellent collaborators. Their passion for the work spreads to others, and they're driven to find solutions. What is most influences a company's performance? The answer will maybe surprise you. It's the leader's own mood. Usually executives' emotional intelligence, that means their self-awareness, empathy, a relation with others, has clear links to their own performance. New research shows that a leader's emotion style also drives everyone else's moods and behaviors through what we call a neurological process called mood contagion. Mood contagion is akin to what we say, smile, and the whole world smiles with you. Emotional intelligence travels through organization like electricity over telephone wires. Depressed and ruthless bosses create toxic organizations filled with negative underachievers employees. But if you are an enthusiastic, inspirational leader, you cultivate positive employees who embrace and surmount even the toughest challenges. Emotional leadership isn't just putting on a game face every day. It means understanding your impact on others, then adjusting your style accordingly. A difficult process of self-discovery, but essential before you can tackle your leadership responsibilities. Another important part of emotional intelligence, it isn't the main component, but it's very important, is what we call authentic leadership. First and foremost, authentic leaders, what they do, they frame their life stories in ways that allow them to see themselves not as passive observers of their lives, but rather as individuals who have developed self-awareness from their own experiences. So the journey to authentic leadership begins with understanding the story of your life. Your life story provides the context for your experiences, and through it, you can find inspiration to make an impact in the world. As the novelist John Barth once wrote, that the story of your life is not your life, it's your story. In other words, it is your personal narrative that matters, not the mere fact of your life. Your life narrative is like a permanent recording playing in your head. Over and over, you replay the events and personal interactions that are important to your life, attempting to make sense of them to find your place in the world. While the life stories of authentic leaders cover the full spectrum of experiences, including the positive impact of parents, athletic coaches, teachers, and mentors, many leaders reported that their motivation came from a difficult experience in their lives. Many times they describe the transformative effects of the loss of a job, of a personal illness, the untimely death of a close friend, the feelings of being excluded. So authentic leaders act on that awareness by practicing their values and principles, sometimes at substantial risk to themselves. They're careful usually to balance their motivations so that they're driven by these inner values as much as by a desire for external rewards or recognition. Authentic leaders also keep a strong support team around them, ensuring that they live integrated, grounded lives. Another important part is confidence. To master confidence, here we can see the traps. To master the confidence to work toward our goals, we should avoid these traps. First of all, self-defeating assumptions. What does that mean? You think you can't. I think I can't, so I don't. Talented people sometimes live before they live. It's another thing to be realistic. It's another thing to behave like a loser before entering the game. This is the first one. The second trap is that goals that are too big or too distant. Having only enormous goals can actually undermine confidence. The gap between a giant goal and today's reality can be depressing and demotivating. Confidence comes from small wins that occur repeatedly, with each small step moving you closer to the big goal. But the small steps must be valued and turned into goals themselves. Winners think small as well as big. Another bad thing is when you declare victory too soon. And of course, when we have the habit of doing yourself, it's a trap to think you can do it alone without a support system and without supporting others. Losing teams usually have stars, but they focus on their own records, not how the whole team does. The resulting resentments and inequalities provoke internal battles that drag everyone down. So to build your confidence, think about building the confidence of others first and creating a culture in which everyone is more likely to succeed, whether through mentoring them or recognizing their strengths. Confidence rests on taking responsibility for our own behavior. Another bad thing is defensiveness. It's another thing to listen and respond to critics, and another to answer them before they have done anything. So don't defend yourself if you're not being attacked. Apologize for your mistakes, but don't apologize for who or what you are. Neglecting to anticipate setbacks also. What is more, a very, very important thing is that confidence involves a dose of reality. It is not a blind optimism. Confidence is not a blind optimism, thinking that everything will be fine no matter what. Confidence stems from knowing that there will be mistakes, there will be problems and small losses in the way to big wins. So a confidence grows when we look at what will go wrong and think through alternatives and feel that we are prepared for whatever might happen. And of course, we have the overconfidence. So confidence is a sweet spot between despair and arrogance. So then don't let confidence slip over into the arrogant end. Overconfidence usually corrupt leaders or individuals who feel entitled to success rather than working for it. Arrogance and complacency lead to neglect of the basics, differs to critics, and blindness to the forces of change, which is a trap for companies as well as individuals. So we need a little humility there to moderate our arrogance and keep just the right amount of confidence. Remember that it's not enough just to feel confident. You have to do the work. But with an expectation of success, you can try new things, form new partnerships, contribute to shared success, and revel in small wins that move you toward bigger goals. So to lead effectively, you must be the 4 C's: confident, connected, committed, and courageous. You must be confident in yourself, connected to others, committed to purpose, and emotionally courageous. Most of us are great at only one of the 4 usually, maybe 2. But to be powerful presence, that means to inspire actions, we need to excel at all 4 simultaneously. If we're confident in ourselves but disconnected from others, everything will be about us, and we will be alienated by the people around us. If we're connected to others but lack confidence in ourselves, then we will betray our own needs and perspectives in order to please everyone else. If we're not committed to purpose something bigger than yourself and others, we will lose the respect of those around us as we act aimlessly, failing to make an impact or what matters cost. And if we fail to act powerfully, decisively, and boldly with emotional courage, our ideas will remain idle thoughts and our goals will remain unfulfilled fantasies. Another part important is power and impact. Power is an essential asset of executive roles. It is the currency that ensures a leader's legacy. It can right organizational injustice, it can nurture promising talents and drive great achievements. The researchers found that even the least powerful employees will commit to finding ways to make their organization more efficient if they're given the autonomy to make decisions and execute the improvement measures they found most useful. We can outsmart the power paradox, and we can benefit from that through many practices. We can try to practice empathy. Here we can see some tips. First of all, how we practice empathy. We can ask a question or two in every interaction and paraphrase important points. We can listen with gusto. That means that we orient our body and eyes toward the person speaking and convey interest and engagement always vocally. When someone comes to us with a problem, signal concern and phrases such as "I'm sorry," it's very important to say that. And before meetings, take a moment to think about the person we will be with and what is happening in his or her life. To get a sense of how we may be emotionally conditioned to respond to power in the workplace, reflect for a moment on the predominant way that our caregivers exert authority in our family system. We can pose this question: did our parents, for example, motivated us by considering our feelings, or did they issue orders they expected to be promptly obeyed? If usually you are raised by caregivers who ask your opinion when making important family decisions, you probably react positively to colleagues who take the time to connect with you at a human level. This time of reaction indicates that the emotional dimension of your signature power style may be trust-based. So most people find that their particular power style is a blend of at least two of these four core power styles. The first style is the pleaser. The pleaser is pleasers often didn't get the attention they crave from their caretakers, from their parents early in life. Pleasers often grow up hungry for validation and they're hardwired to take care of others. Pleasers often wield power by attempting to connect with others at a personal level. The second type is the charmer. Charmers were often required to soothe an emotionally needy parent early in life. As a result, they sometimes have little respect for formal authority and may manipulate others in order to get their needs met. The charmer power style is exemplified by people with an intensity of focus that both intimidates and seduces others into compliance. We have also the commander. The commander has grown up in a family system devoted to sports, religions, the military, or a larger system that reinforces discipline, of course, and a strict code of conduct. Commanders operate with the result of orientation, tend to foster a sense of urgency in others. I think the most important of all is the inspirer. Why? Because the family systems that foster and inspires often value self-expression over conformity, and the caregivers in such systems usually are willing to make personal sacrifices to achieve excellence in areas such as artistic expression or scientific inquiry. Inspirers tend to be innovative thinkers and operate with a consistent commitment to the greater good. Of course, each style has inherent strengths and challenges, and each presents us very important lessons about power in the workplace. An important thing is also, I forgot to say, the gratitude. Recent studies show that partners who acknowledge each other's value in casual conversation are less likely to break up. that students who receive, for example, a pat on the back from the teachers are more likely to take on difficult problems, and that people who express appreciation to others in a newly formed group feel stronger ties to the group months later. When managers take the time to thank their employees, those workers are more engaged and more productive. Players who physically display their appreciation through head rubs or bear hugs, etc., inspire their teammates to play better and win nearly 2 more games per season. Leaders have shared other tactics also. They give small gifts to employees, taking them out to nice lunches or dinners, hosting employee of the month celebrations, and setting up real or virtual gratitude walls. So we can see that also gratitude it's very important. Remember, the great challenge of power isn't how to exploit, but how to abdicate it. And remember also that leaders don't create followers, they create leaders. Giving your colleagues or your employees real autonomy and helping them feel more powerful is not only your best chance to back the trend of disengagement and apathy, but it is also at the heart of competitive strategy. Here I want to say, as an educator, as a neuroeducation researcher, I see that the increased use of the digital tools in the learning process caused great changes in the human brain, especially what concerns the transformation of already existing cognitive structures and the construction of new ones. So here, the role of neuroscience is very important, especially during this unprecedented period of the COVID pandemic, because it can help us understand the inner workings of the human brain. And of course, because it can help us plan strategy to fail problems related to the excessive use. We can see the problems that the students face very recently about privacy risk, the exposure to internet, cyberbullying, many dangers on the internet that the parents should face and tackle every day. Neuroeducation can give us the framework with the help of which we can develop challenging activities that could increase also at the same time attention and improve memorization. Human brain learns optimally. That means that makes a maximum number of connections when intrinsically motivated. Intrinsic motivations are also necessary for student creativity. So brain-based strategies, that means strategies that are based on the learning compatible with the brain, are very important. During the quarantine, many people experience not only loneliness, but we saw the recent research who said that children, especially children, are suffering from depression, suicide, from mental health disorders, and also post-traumatic stress. So first of all, we should create, as a teacher, I'm talking about as a teacher now, we should create positive emotions to children. Why? Because the role of emotion, as we said before, in learning is very important. Everything we learn is influenced and organized by emotions and states of mind. Feelings and thoughts shape each other and they cannot be separated. COVID crisis took an emotional toll on children, so it is crucial to create positive emotion. And this has a suggestion, a universal significance. It's not only restricted to coronavirus pandemic. It's very important to make learning pleasant. Why? Because neuroscience tells us that learning is reinforced by challenge and inhibited by threat. Challenging activities could increase attention and improve memorization. As we said, human brain learns optimally. That means that it creates more neurons when it is intrinsically motivated. So intrinsic motivation is necessary. The difficulties that currently exist make even more enjoyable and easier the knowledge offered. Very important social skills. We should place emphasis on teaching students how to develop empathy, solidarity, and altruism. Why? Because neuroeducation tells us that our brain is social. What that means that our brain evolves and learns through interaction and experiences with others. Learning cannot progress well when students feel isolated and lonely. Our brain seems to like learning from others. Social distancing is only physical and it shouldn't lead to isolation. We have many good online collaborative platforms that children can develop communication, collaboration with their peers. We have many synchronous and asynchronous communication tools like chat channels, bulletin boards, and discussion groups that foster interaction and peer-to-peer support. Very important to it's important to develop self-awareness, encourage students to express their feelings and promote self-awareness, self-management, maybe through storytelling, story sharing. It's a very good technique for teachers. Emphasize, prioritize social and emotional learning. Of course, during the quarantine, many people, as we said, experience loneliness, etc. It's important to create a safe environment because our brain seeks security. So we have to reassure students that everything is going to be all right and make this transition as smooth as possible. Teachers in collaboration always with parents should inform children about healthy device use. As we said before, they are exposed to cyberbullying and harmful content and violation of the personal information, and they could help them learn how to keep personal information private, especially from strangers. Great emphasis should be placed also on choosing the appropriate methodology because what works well in the classroom may not be suitable for remote learning. Appropriate methodology is what fits best to the needs, rhythm, and interests of both teachers and students. So the coordination of synchronous and asynchronous teaching is very important because with the help of teleconferencing, the teacher can discuss the task and at the same time can discuss at a human level. So I want to say here, this was my presentation. I want to place emphasis on emotional intelligence because I think is the key for the future and a key is the component that will help us to survive and thrive in the new normal and all its challenges and all its implications. Thank you very much. If you have any question, I am at your disposal.
Dear ma'am, this was indeed a well-researched and excellent presentation. You have thrown light on every aspect related to emotional intelligence, and we are really blessed that we got a chance to attend this session today. And we look forward to more of sessions from you on this particular topic. We, being a teacher, could relate to many of the topics based on leadership, power, and how to deal with students, especially during this pandemic period. And ma'am, the best part about your presentation was the strategies that you have given to develop emotional intelligence in us. And these are all brain-based strategies. So I would just like to repeat them before the audience. As per the brain-based strategies which have been explained by ma'am, these points, they revolved around creative, we need to create positive emotions. We need to make learning pleasant. We need to develop social skills. Social skills is the need of the hour because we are not getting a chance to move out much. So we have to see what is the best way to develop these skills, and if we are already having it, how to retain them. Then we need to develop self-awareness. That is very much important if we need to prosper in life. Then we need to create a safe environment and adopt an appropriate strategy. Thank you so much for this session, ma'am. Now I would like to invite our next speaker for this particular webinar, that is Dr. Manisha Gaur from Indore. Over to you, ma'am.
Right. So namaste first. Sabko everyone. Just hello from India. And with this starting that, thanks to Devaditya Foundation for arranging a talk on such an important subject, because nowadays I am taking a lot of cases of emotional things. There are a lot of people, the students, youngsters, the people who are not having jobs, the business people who are just shaky about what is going on in future and everything. So a lot of important to discuss on this subject. And thank you to Devaditya Foundation. Thank you to Mr. Indra Bhuvan Singh and Meeta. And this, where is Markin? I think Markin is somewhere. So thank you to Markin ji also. Okay. And a very good work you're doing, Mr. Indra Bhuvan ji, and your team. So you said one word that we need to make the impossible to possible for these children. So believe me, nothing is impossible when the workers are like you and your team. So nothing is impossible. Together we can and we will make a difference. We all with you and together we'll do that. So don't worry about these children and about this world, because if there are questions, definitely there are answers. Whenever we get a question, we get three answers at least. So no worries about that. And thank you, Raina, Cassandra, and Susai. Mukta, I think not there, to join us for this discussion. And Rania, I must say you are a very good teacher because you completed everything. And you never stopped before that. You completed each and every aspect of the subject. So that's a good thing, very good thing about the teachers. And teachers, I must say, teachers should be trained in psychology. They should understand the emotions and they should be emotionally intelligent. Otherwise, it's really tough to understand the emotions of children, because in the case of adults, we can train them in a lot of things, but in case of children's, we need to give them atmosphere so that they become like whatever we want, because they're very small to understand the jargons of the subjects, like what is emotion, what is emotional intelligence, what is emotional failure. It's important to have the teachers who understand this and who can give the atmosphere to develop their intelligence towards emotions. So thank you, Rania, for the very good presentation. Okay. Now, first of all, I want to, because you covered a lot, so I have to start from where you covered the things which remains, and I'll pick up some cases to discuss this so that the people who are watching us, they can understand how we can deal with, and they at least come to know whether they are emotionally intelligent or not, because it's really tough to understand for a person by self that whether I'm emotionally intelligent or I'm not. So I'm giving some conditions so that the people who are watching, they can understand where they need to work upon. Okay. So some first I'll start what are the positive emotion and what are the negative emotions. Some are the positive emotions which we all need, this world need. The first emotion is love, which exist in not only the mankind, which exist in earth, in sky, in environment, in trees, and the animals and birds and everywhere. This is the emotion which this world, every part of this world is having, and it is required for everyone. Then peace. If we are not having peace, then if we achieve a lot, it's no value. So peace is the second most important positive emotion. Happiness. If you're happy, then only you can spread it to anyone. If you're not having happiness inside your internal system, you can't spread it, because whatever you not have, how can you give it to anyone? And I think with what goes around, it comes around. Whatever we give, we get it. So happiness is important in our internal system. And the kindness. Kindness, because we are human, we have that humanity and human values. This is the only asset we need. And in this pandemic era, we need to take care of human assets. In general, we take care of everything we have in the home, in the office, the tables, the walls, the glasses, everything we take care every day. But the human asset, which is very much important, and somehow we're not taking care of that very minutely, very strongly, which is very much important, because at the end of the day, we need people. How much money you have, how much buildings you have, how much physical stuff you have, at the end of the day, you need your good friend, your ma, your papa, your loved ones, your relations. So man, woman, and human is important at the end of the day. So we need to take care of the human asset, and we all here to take care of human assets. And human asset management, I think, is the most important subject after this pandemic and during this pandemic era. And some of the negative emotions which are present widely these days: anger, hurt, guilt, sadness, fear, stress, and all. And because the people who are having this, they are behaving badly, and they're not even ready to understand their emotions. And if they're not ready to understand their emotions, it's nowhere possible to understand the emotion of others, like friends or relatives or neighbors or colleagues. So we need to take care first to understand how the people understand. So I am going to talk first, um, how you know that you have a bit need to work upon emotions. How you come to know that I have a little less side of emotional intelligence. And there are two part. One is emotionally intelligence, and one is not able to understand the emotions of self. And then if you're not able to understand the emotion of self, it's not possible to understand the emotion of others. So let's start with these signs of low emotional intelligence. Because if we talk about the emotional intelligence component, then Rania explained that very well. So, what are the signs of low emotional intelligence? If anybody is watching, they can figure out. Number one, the people who are having low emotional intelligence, they always have to be right. Wherever the conversation happening, wherever they talking, they have to be the last person to say and to discuss and to prove that I am right. They always want to prove, even whatever the discussion is, whatever the point is, they don't want to listen, they are not ready to listen, they just want to prove I'm right. So if anybody is listening and having an habit of proving yourself right everywhere, then mind it, guys. You need to work upon your emotions, and you need to be smartly, smartly telling people that you're not emotionally intelligent. Okay. Number two, the people who are having low emotional intelligence, they are oblivious to other people's feeling. They are oblivious to other people's feeling. They don't understand what my spouse is having feeling about me, what my children's having feeling about me, what my colleagues are feeling about me, what are happening in the surroundings, what are the people talking about me. They are least concerned about that. They are even not taking care, they're damn about what the other people's, their relatives, their friends, their neighbors, their colleagues are having the emotion about them. So if you don't care what the other people have the emotions about yourself, and you're talking, you're making your statements without understanding that, then kindly take care and take care about your learnings about the emotions. Number three, the people who are having way low emotional intelligence, they behave insensitively. They behave insensitively. They can make a joke out of a tragic event. They can laugh about when their colleague is talking about the death of something or some bad incidents. If anybody is talking about some accidents happens in their life, they can put three more events of accidents and put it as a joke or as a very very normal event. So They are very insensitive. They are not taking care of what other person want to say, what the feelings when they had any accident or any trauma or any bad event in their life. They just talk very insensitive. So if any of you who are watching, all of us, is walking like these things, talking like these things, behaving like, kindly take care, because you're hurting a lot of people. And somehow, as I said, what goes around, it comes around. If you are spreading hurt, you are spreading anything like this, it will come to you. And then you will have a question, why I'm getting these things? And then you don't remember that you spreaded that. Okay. Number four, the people who are having the low emotional intelligence, they blame others for their problems. Anything bad happen in their life, they, rather than checking with self, they just find someone to blame, some person, some circumstances, anything, they just find out someone to blame. So they start blaming for all their stuff having, or during any bad situations, they start blaming one or other person. He did that, who did that, and because of them it happens, because of the circumstances it happened, because they are not checking with them, they are just blaming and blaming and blaming. And the consequences are, when you start blaming to anyone, you're not going to get any success, you're not going to get any goal you finalized. Because if you're not taking responsibilities of your failures, you can't get to know about the feedbacks. And if you're not having the list of feedbacks, next time again you're doing the same mistake, and same failures comes again and again and again, because you're getting it, not the right things, you're blaming and blaming and blaming. So believe me, the moment you start blaming, taking feedback, and utilizing that feedback, you will start getting success difference. So whoever watching, please take care. Number five, they have very poor coping skills, can't deal with emotional fallout. Anytime when they get something bad emotions, if they get some hurt or guilt or fear, they are not able to cope up with those situations, and they always try to run away with these situations. They're not able to face those situations, and they always run away from the situations. And the moment they have the habit to run away, they're not able to face any situations. And if they're not able to face any situations, there are no answers for them, because they are not facing the questions. So if they're not facing the questions, how can they get the answers of the solutions? So they're not getting answers and they're not getting solutions, and then they get frustrations and other things. Again, the bad emotions and bad emotions and bad emotions, and running and running and running. So running or leaving the things as they are is not the solution. Facing, dealing with them is the solutions. So find out, be brave, be strong, be energetic to face any question or any bad thing happening in your life. Then only you will have the way to complete your goals, and you will have the moments of success in your life. Okay. Next, these people who are having very poor emotional intelligence, low and emotional intelligence, they have a lot time, and very often they have emotional outburst, you know. And smallest thing happen in their life, and they start feeling sorrow, and that continues for the hours and for the days and for the weeks, because they have that outburst, because they don't have the analytical skills, they don't have what is happening, why skills, and how I can get out of that. So when they get that outburst, they have a sorrow for the weeks, for the days, for the hours. If they start feeling frustration, the frustration keeps going for the day, for the day, for the day, for the day, and continues to harm them emotionally, physically, mentally, and they will not get their mind, body, and soul in one rhythm. So they have a lot of outbursts. If any of you who are watching this program, if you start hurting yourself and you think for the 2 days you're sitting and feeling that bad emotion for 2 hours, for 3 hours, you're not getting out of it, kindly check yourself and find out a good friend, good relative, talk to your spouse or your parents or anyone about the situation and get out of it. Okay, because you need to be emotionally intelligent, my dear friend, to fight anything in this world. Okay, next. The people who are having low intelligence, low intelligence in terms of their emotions, they struggle with the relationships. If they are children, they have very bad relationship with the parents. If their wife, no good relationship with husband. If their husband keep fighting with the wife, and if you are into the office, you are having always problems with your colleagues. You're not able to maintain the relationship. You are always struggling with the relationship, and you're always complaining that my children are not good, or my spouse is having this problem, or my colleagues are not having good office, bad boss, bad subordinates, because you're not able to maintain the relationships. You're not able to understand the emotions of your loved ones, and when you're not able to understand the emotions of your loved ones, how can you respond? Then always you react, and you react, your reactions come again with the same reactions, and then the relations are not very cool, very healthy. So if you're struggling with the any emotional, any relationships, if you're struggling with the relationship with your children, with your spouse, with your friends, with your colleagues, kindly check with yourself and talk to some teacher, so talk to someone who love or someone you trust and get out of this. Because as I said, again I'm telling, at the end of the day, we need people. Whatever you earn, whatever you have, the best part in your office, when you come back, you want a smiling wife, you want a smiling children, and you want a healthy atmosphere in your family. And that is the only important thing in this world at the end of the day. Okay. Now, friends, um, the people who are having low or emotional intelligence, they always turn any conversation towards them. Whatever you're talking to them, they convert that conversation towards them. If you're saying, I am having this, they will say 10 things that I have this. If you say, I have one small problem, they'll come with 7 problems. Oh, you have this, I have that, I have that, I have that, I have that. They have to turn all the conversations towards them, and they have to end it with them. Okay, you have one good thing, I have 7. You have one bad things, I have 20. You have one bad friend, I have 10. And you have one good thing, I have so many, 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 many. So this is a sign that the person is having low emotional intelligence. They need to work upon their intelligence. Okay. And the last, number 9, they create problems in others' life. The people who don't understand their emotions and who don't even understand others' emotions, they create problems with others' life. They create problems because they don't understand that I have solutions within. You know, all the problems which we have in our life, we as an NLPer, I can say there is a very famous presupposition. It's all in your brain. no resource required to solve your problems. If you understand your brain, if you have command in your mind, you can train your mind. If you have and if you know that what my mind wants, sometimes we used to say, I don't like, I don't do, my mind is not well, and my mind don't allow me to do this and this and that and that. So guys, if you are not controlling your mind, how can you control this world? And if your mind is not listening you, how the people can listen you, and why this world listen to you if you're not listening yourself? Your mind is not listening yourself, and mind is not doing what you want. So if you say my mind doesn't want this, it means you're not able to train your mind. So just be the master of your mind. And if you be the master of your mind, you can be the master of anybody's mind. And then you create, opportunities and success in your life, and you're able to create opportunities and success in others' life. So in short, if we understand the emotional intelligence, number one, emotional awareness, the ability to identify the name of your own emotion and understand and make the understand other people your emotion. Number two, the ability to harness those emotions and apply them to tasks like thinking and problem solving. Number three, ability to manage emotions, which includes both regulating one's own emotions when necessary and helping others to do the same when required with anyone. We can say that a sensitivity to emotional signals, both from within oneself and from one's social environment, could make one a better parent, better friend, better leader, and better partner. I think I took my time, but I conclude with two things. We believe in every behavior has a positive intention in some context, because we all together gather here to make this world a very small part of this world, making emotionally intelligent. So we need to understand the behaviors. What is the positive intention behind those behaviors? In a very small example, if there is a person or one of my friend or colleague, anyone come to me and start abusing me and saying bad things about me, and you're so and you're so and you're so, there are three ways to talk to self, because emotional intelligence start from self. How we talk to ourselves, it decide that how intelligent we are. So if this incident happens with me, there are three ways to think. Number one, I can think this person start abusing me once. If I strongly behave, then once for all, he or she will never do this. So I can do one thing, I get aggressive, way highly aggressive, and I can slap. Okay, how dare you to talk to me like this? How dare you to think about me like this? This is one reaction. Number two reaction is, if I'm not that aggressive, but I really felt bad, ki you're talking me about this, so I can converse in the same manner. He says or she says one, I say two. Then they say two, I say four. Then they say four, I say eight. And we start fighting together with the bad words, with the bad tone, and with the bad vibrations. And number three, the best response is, if I know myself, if I have done the analysis about me, if I know what Dr. Manisha Gaur is, what are my abilities, what are my capabilities, what are my limitations, then whatever this person is talking to me is meaningless. Because whatever you say, it's your mouth, you can say anything. So I can say with a smile that you are my friend for 5 years and you're talking these things about me. Definitely there is something good. I will just complete my work and go home and think about this. Can you repeat it once more? So if I go with this response, then the other person is surprisingly stop, I think, and maybe he or she says, I am not talking about your capabilities, I am just abusing you. And I can respond, that's okay, that's your words, I'll definitely take care, but I think I love you, dear friend. Just repeat, and I'll go home and think about that. So if there's a response is there, then no fighting is there, no vibration loss is there, and the world is so peaceful. So if I know myself, if I know my emotions, if I analysis myself and I know what I am, it doesn't matter what people says about me. And there is a saying that everyone is not thinking like what I am. They think, what is he saying? What is she saying? What is they talking? What are they talking? So don't think about the world, just think about the self, your internal system, your senses. Your senses are the decision maker, what is going outside, what are you taking, how you're taking to your unconscious, and how your unconscious making the internal system, and according to that internal representation, your behavior becomes. So if you know how to take thick insights, what to take thick insights and what not to take, where not to react, you just need to respond to yourself. If you know that, you'll be always happy, always peaceful, and always grateful to this world. And if I have those positive emotions inside me, then I am able to spread it. So thank you everyone for listening, for having me in here and calling me. Thanks a lot. Thank you.
It was very fantastic, ma'am. It was really, I can say, very nicely presented and nicely, commented, and with the great example, I can say, means what I feel. You try to put up everything with the example. Means it should be something like learning by doing and doing by seeing.
Yeah.
So our audience can see where they stand, where they fall,
Yeah.
whether they fall under low category, medium category, or high category. So they can self-analyze.
Yeah.
It's a kind of self-assessment, you can say. And what is our, I think, the whole agenda of this webinar, this self-assessment and self-awareness. So wonderful, ma'am, and especially your this examples of low emotional intelligence, which you have given, and like people are very very argumentative in nature. They are not ready to accept they are wrong. Always they fight. I am right. I am right. Even till last. So it's very common what is said. It's a very very common, and I think so everywhere, in any part of the world, we can have such kind of peoples, those who are very, very argumentative in nature. And for another thing you put, which I very, very impressed, and especially your emotional outburst. Even if you ask me, even I have seen this kind of things in my life also, where people lose their temperament, people lose their connections, and they become speechless when they don't know what they are talking. So it's a really very I think so. We must have some say on this, where we have to keep control, or where we have to keep check post. Then our life can go in a smooth way. And that is the, I can say, this is the need of the hour. In, not only because of this current pandemic situation, and we gathered here through this webinar session. I think so, even before this pandemic situation, this emotional intelligence is highly needed. And it's lacking almost, I think so, any part of, world or any sort of peoples. So this we need to improve. And last one, which I feel, master of your mind. That is the best part I can say. Means in my all audience and all our guest speakers, and especially even Ma'am Miss Dr. Rania Lampu. She also nicely presented all in a very good manner and good way. As you said, she is a fantastic teacher, and even I am really amazed, ma'am, Dr. Rania, ma'am, how you presented your presentation with such patience and way of explaining things. That was really fantastic. Means we all amazed, and how ma'am, Dr. Manisha, ma'am, has taken from there where she left. So this was really, I can say, best coordination between speakers, and in India we call it jugalbandi, but in English we call this what you call partnership. So it was really amazing presentation and nicely made, ma'am, Dr. Manisha, ma'am. Yeah, ma'am, Mita, ma'am. Now you can have your words, please.
You're not audible. You're not audible. Open
Ma'am,
your...
unmute yourself.
Unmute yourself, ma'am.
Sir, you have already expressed my feelings, and it was, let me tell you, Manisha ma'am, it was my dream to attend a session of yours. I would have come to Indore to attend it, but I have been blessed enough to get like I could attend it today by staying at my home only. And it was indeed a wonderful session, ma'am. And the way you have explained it, like the way you have synchronized all the headings for this particular presentation, right from starting with meaning of emotional intelligence to highlighting positive and negative emotions, and then the signs of low emotional intelligence. In fact, there were certain points which I could relate to myself. So definitely, I look forward to learning more about this from you. And the gist of your presentation was the way you have concluded it with the help of an example which anybody could relate it. And whenever we explain through examples, it's something that gets into our mind immediately and it stays for long. And if as I know that you are well connected, man, you should definitely recommend that teachers should be trained in psychology. It should be a basic subject for any person to take up teaching as a profession, and teachers should definitely have high emotional intelligence, because being teachers, we are so closely associated with the students, we get a chance to know them so well. So if we are emotionally intelligent, if we are good at psychology, definitely we can contribute to the society on a larger scale. So thank you so much for being here with us, and we look forward to having you again and having more of interactions with you. There are certain questions which have come up, which I will take up in the question and answer round. Thank you, ma'am. Now I invite our next speaker for today's webinar, Ma'am Cassandra Leclerc. Ma'am, over to you for your kind words now.
Hello, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you very much for this invitation. I am going to do a little bit of a different kind of presentation today. I'm actually going to talk to you about some of my own experiences professionally and personally. So my name is Cassandra Leclerc, and I'm a professor of communication studies at Texas State University. And what I teach about interpersonal relationships, and I teach about feelings and emotions and the ways that we create connections with other people. And I love that. And I get to talk with my students about how we manage emotions and how we understand things, and how if we can come to that understanding and raise our emotional intelligence, this helps us empathize and overcome and communicate with other people. So I teach about this, and I've taught about this now for 15 years. But one of the things that I noticed in my own life, one of the things that as I was going through and teaching, learned about those 5 components, you know, the self-awareness, the self-regulation, the internal motivation, the empathy, and the social skills. And I was teaching and I felt like I embodied so many of those things. I felt like I knew how to describe them and I knew the research behind them and I could explain them and back it all up with examples. But yet in my personal life, when I would leave work, there were times when I just couldn't understand my own emotional expression. I couldn't understand why that emotional regulation in particular was so challenging. I didn't know it, and I felt like at odds with that. I didn't understand how I could be in one space and understand things so clearly and help others in such a profound way, but I couldn't fix this one piece within myself. And it really bothered me a lot. And what I know from all of the research and from everything we've already learned today is we know how important our own identities are and how important our own emotional work is so we can understand others. And before we can understand others, we have to work on our internal mechanisms and fix the things within. And so again, although I had learned this and read about this in school, I wasn't doing it fully. So what happened for me is, as was mentioned in my intro, I wrote a book. And what my book is about my own journey of emotional healing. And what happened through this is it was about me really strengthening this pillar of emotional regulation and really increasing my emotional intelligence, because we all are born with that. We have that capacity within us. But through our own patterns and through other things that we learn through traumas or crisis, that innate emotional intelligence that we feel and that we have and that we know, that can change and that can shift in those patterns. So what we have to do is come back to our own awareness of those things and be able to really hone in our emotional intelligence that we were born with, and really be able to practice those things and really be able to live in those ways. So what I needed to do is I had to go back and do some deeper work. I had to recognize and acknowledge some of my patterns. And one of the reasons that I did struggle with this is because of unresolved trauma. I had to go back and heal wounds from my childhood. I was sexually abused as a child, and I never ever talked about that. I did not express that to people. I didn't integrate that into any part of my identity whatsoever. But what I did is I created these coping mechanisms that kept me safe. And just like coping mechanisms they should keep us safe. But what happens with people often in trauma or crisis situations is that long after those situations are over, we hang on to some of those coping mechanisms. And for me, those became some of these unregulated patterns, or some of these ways where I didn't know how to manage emotions, just like the other presenters have said, you know, maybe feeling heightened reactions in certain situations, or, oh, maybe my reaction might not match a situation, or feeling like I wouldn't be able to handle intense emotions and things like that. And so oftentimes then when I was faced with those situations, I would close off and isolate because I didn't understand why my emotions were that way, when I knew so much about emotional regulation and I knew so much about emotional intelligence. So once I finally went back and started healing and really looking at some of my traumas, I understood this component of emotional intelligence in a new way. I went back and I looked at all of my journals and the things that I wrote about, and really these patterns and these things that came up that became the chapters in my book were the thought processes, were some of these things that we learn about and that we know from emotional intelligence. You know, what is your self-awareness? I had a great deal of awareness of my emotion, but I did not have a great deal of understanding of where that emotion came from. And this is why it's also so important when we're looking at all of these pillars of emotional intelligence. It's not just as simple as recognizing your emotion and understanding, oh, I have emotions and you have emotions, but it's really trying to trace back, where does that feeling come from? Where do those feelings place you in that moment? And so for me as a communication studies professor, I look at then, how does that impact your communication? The majority of individuals are walking around in a more heightened state than we even realize. And we are often reacting to other people because of our own stuff that we haven't really worked through and resolved. And so it's really working on having a response rather than a reaction. but that's hard for people. We go to those triggers and we don't often know why. So again, that's where tracing those feelings of your emotional self back to those root issues. Where are they coming from? What part of your identity does this mean? Is there a certain person who always triggers you? Is it a certain time of day? It is a certain topic, you know, really honing in on that. And that for me was transformative. And since I wrote my book and recognized some of these own patterns, I was so excited to listen to the previous presentations, because I feel now that I can embody these things in a different way, and it has changed my life. It has changed my ability as a professor to relate to my students. It has enhanced my connections with my friends and with my family. But also what it has done for me personally is the level of fear and anxiety that kind of was this undercurrent for me throughout my whole life, that's gone away now. So the beauty of all of this is it's not just learning about the emotional intelligence. And I think we as, you know, as teachers and clinicians and practitioners and therapists, you know, we know things, but it's also important to talk about the things we don't know and talk about the ways that we have to practice them ourselves and to really talk about what that looks like. Because the reality of emotional intelligence and emotional maturity and all of these things is that it is also the work that you put into it. And why I think this is so important and imperative that we pass this along to our children and that we start teaching this at a younger age is because for me, this is really the backbone for how we create a better society as well. Okay, I know that sounds like kind of a lofty goal, but if you think about it, if you think about when we are all at peace and we feel that homeostasis and we feel that emotional regulation, then we feel that within internally. Then our motivation, another pillar, right? Our motivation to then go help others and our motivation to purely listen to one another and provide that empathy and provide that compassion, it's enhanced. And we only continue to enhance that by then sharing that with other people. And it has that ripple effect and one more person and one more person. And so I really think that talking about emotional regulation and helping more people understand their emotional expression and being able to communicate about that clearly with yourself, with your relational partners, I think that that can be a big source of improving some of the societal issues that we have right now too, because really it just comes back to that place of compassion and kindness and empathy and cultivating it and practicing that and recognizing that managing your emotions doesn't mean shutting your emotions down. It means recognizing what they are, recognizing where they come from, and finding appropriate places to express those things. So as everyone else was talking, you know, this all sounds great. It's like, yes, let's be emotionally healthy. Let's do this. But I do think, again, it's important to talk about how can that happen? What does that look like? And so just remembering that this is a continual process. You don't have it figured out. It doesn't stop. It's something where you continually work on it. So there are still days where I walk around and I might be a little more triggered, or a situation might, you know, make me do some of those other things that we heard about today. And it's really taking a pause in that moment and also not reacting to myself, but responding to myself gently and with kindness and compassion to myself, instead of beating myself up for an overreaction or for a time when I was maybe didn't use my heightened emotional intelligence, because that's the growth piece of this too. And really recognizing that there is so much potential for growth for all of us in this. And the piece for growth comes back to that self-awareness. So I really think, again, where there is so much potential with emotional intelligence for a variety of audiences and a variety of people, and the ways that we can continue just to have these conversations and cultivate the knowledge behind it and give other people permission to continue to grow in their emotional intelligence. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Cassandra. It was really very, I can say very informative presentation, and how you correlate your personal life into this emotional intelligence journey. That was really very remarkable, and that is the, I can say, that can be the lesson for our audience today from this webinar. How you can replicate your personal habits or your personal workings in your day-to-day life and in your journey, and how you narrate your childhood story. See, and this coping mechanism is highly required in this day-to-day life, in changing environment, because for the young generations, because our audience, there are some youngsters, they become very frustrated very fast. They want everything in one night. They want success in overnight. Success doesn't come in one night. It's a journey. Success is process which takes time. So this your presentation, ma'am, is a great example for our audience. They can learn and they can replicate in their life. So once again, thank you so much, Dr. Cassandra Ali Claire, for your wonderful information. It was very informative. And now, Professor Mita, ma'am, you can have your few words.
Thank you for your presentation, ma'am. It was indeed like it was something really nice that you could share your personal experience on this on a platform like this. It requires a lot of guts to share, to be sharing like this. And best was you have used emotional intelligence as a coping mechanism for your emotional healing. So definitely a question has come on this, which I would be taking up when we reach the question and answer session. Uh, now I request our next speaker, that is Ma'am Susie Badrial, to express her views on this topic. And over to you, ma'am.
Good morning, y'all. Thank you for having me here. I'm super excited to be here. And if you don't know about me, just a little quick blurb, because today is a huge day. I am CEO and founder of Room Redux, and we transform the rooms of children who have faced sexual and physical abuse. We do it anonymously, and we do it in one day. And today I am in Denver, Colorado in the US. We flew from Texas yesterday and got here for their first room transformation. There's also a room transformation going on in Sacramento, California, and also in San Antonio, Texas. So big, big day. All of that to say, we're listening to everyone and everyone's expertise and feelings and thoughts and about everything is just, it's really exciting to hear all of you speaking so beautifully and sharing your knowledge with us, because it is so important. Emotional intelligence, I mean, it's been associated with well-being, mental and physical health, and our quality of interpersonal relationships. So, of course, my focus is children. And the thing is with children, Cassandra touched on the coping mechanism. So coping strategies. Very often adolescents, they choose self-harm as an emotional regulation strategy. Very self-deprecating, very harmful to the child. I wrote some notes here, so it's early in the morning. I'm gonna, but although self-harm may be a way to decrease the negative emotions that are exacerbated by maladaptive emotional coping strategies like rumination, self-blame, sense of helplessness, cutting. Lots of these children are cutting, and it's important for them to develop positive coping strategies, and that's where counseling comes in. It's so important for children to be in counseling, adolescents, and even us as adults when we haven't dealt with things. Like Sandra was saying, there were things that she knew. We can know in our head what's going on. I can tell any of you how to, Rania, this is how you deal with this. But to deal with our own selves, it's a different animal. It's very often a little bit more challenging. So I encourage everyone to be very mindful of your speech. Practice empathy with others, but practice empathy with yourself as well. Know your stressors. Bounce back from adversity. That's very often easier said than done, especially during this strange 9-10 months of COVID, but it's very important. I think it's more important than ever. And Randy had talked about creating a safe environment, and that is exactly what Room Redux does. Our intention is to create a safe environment for children who have faced abuse, to give them a fresh start. And for children, it's very important. For ourselves, it's very important. Right now, I'm sitting in a friend's condo. She is one of the executive directors of Room Redux Denver. But if I were in my office at home, you would see it's bright, bright orange. And that is one way that, for me anyway, emotional intelligence and knowing myself, I know that it brings me joy. It makes me happy. And I can relay that to others, and I can exude that in my everyday living and in the way that I feel inspired and the way that I treat myself. So, adapting these coping styles that are positive are very, very effectual in regard to our emotional intelligence, because when we deal with things negatively, we have maladaptive coping strategies. It can lead to depression, self-deprecation, and we lash out at others, and we don't know why we're responding in certain ways. So it's very important to be able to regulate yourself and not try to control others, but work on yourself. I'm a very positive person, and my thought is, you don't think you can do it? Do it anyway. Do it afraid, but do the thing that you feel in your heart and in your soul is something that you need to do, and that's going to help with your emotional intelligence. Don't think they're going to hire you. Don't think you deserve a job. Apply anyway. The worst thing they can say is no, but at least you know that you tried, you did something, and don't disrespect yourself. My son would come home, and he's a very, very intelligent 27-year-old. He's 27 now, but he's very intelligent. But there were times when he would talk back to me or lash out at me, and I would ask him, would you speak to your teacher that way? I'm the one that loves you most. So, why would you speak to me that way? And it would really hit home in his head. Why? Oh, it's mom. Why am I talking to her that way? Well, I have had to, on a personal note, over the past, I guess, last 2 or 3 years, realize, well, why would I do that to myself as well? I would not speak to any of you rudely or disrespectfully. So why would I talk to myself that way? And that's where our emotional intelligence comes in. And I have, with a background in psychology, I've decided that instead of being hard on myself, instead of, oops, I dropped my glass of water and it went everywhere. Instead of getting onto myself like, stupid, why'd I do that? I try to focus on 5-year-old Susie. As a little girl, how would I speak to 5-year-old Susie? And so I've gotten to where I say, it's all right, sweetie. You're doing a good job. Just clean it up. It's easy. And I say it out loud. It may sound funny, but to hear those words, to say the words to myself out loud, it is so calming. It makes me feel better. I suggest that everyone try it because I think it's a wonderful thing to do. And one last thing, Rania touched on the need for change. Everything that we've talked about, everything that every speaker has talked about, really part of the root of it is the need for change. We need to change the way we think. We need to think about the way we speak to others, to ourselves, and find ways that we can really connect with ourselves in a personal relationship, and how we can express that into our emotional intelligence in regard to others, and go forward positively. That's it. That's what I've got. Thanks for having me today.
Yeah, thanks.
Indu Singh, sir, you want to say something, or should I be moving ahead?
Yeah, please, Mikaji, ma'am.
Ma'am, you have like concluded your like you went with the presentation on a very normal note, and the best part that I liked about you was your smile. And I'm a big fan of your energy and positivity. It was very much visible on your face, the way you were smiling and the way you were just coming up with the presentation full of energy. So this in itself shows that you are practicing emotional intelligence on a serious note. And the only points that I could just note down while I was paying attention to your presentation were like you have asked people to be mindful about their speech, which is a very rare thing for people. People just uh, say whatever comes to their mind. So if we are mindful about the speech, definitely we are emotionally intelligent. One should know about the circumstance as well. And second, the last thing that I like most, which you have explained with the help of an example of your son, that is, do not disrespect yourself. If you will disrespect yourself, you're basically giving permission to people around to treat you that way. So love yourself the way you are. If you love yourself, the people around you will surely love you. Thank you so much for this wonderful session. Now we have kept some time for a sort of panel discussion whereby all our experts can just have a discussion on emotional intelligence as per their views, because every speaker has come up with a different perspective and a different perception, different presentation. So we can just try to channelize all the content displayed by four speakers as a gist. So in case if we have some space for discussion, if anybody wants to come up with, and then I'm going to come up with the question and answer round. I have already noted the questions. I request Ma'am Rania Lampau, Ma'am, Dr. Manisha Gaur, Ma'am Susie Gabriel, Ma'am Cassandra Leclerc, Ma'am, if you can just come up with a discussion on this topic.
I
In
think
case,
questions, and then questions will lead us to discussion.
okay, ma'am. So, ma'am, questions are actually like whatever questions I've noted from YouTube, they are for a speaker. They are named along with the speaker. And the first question is for Ma'am Rania Lampo. This question is the question is how to inculcate mental stability. One of the participant has asked how to inculcate mental stability and what are the methods for this.
As I said, I will talk about on behalf of teachers now. We need to, in this case, to prioritize. More or less, teachers have embraced online learning. We have only integrated technology in our classroom. We have explored the blended learning, etc. We need to prioritize mental health disorders now. So teachers, in collaboration with parents, should leverage, as we said before, some specific strategies like encourage students to share their experiences, what we call story sharing, storytelling. It's very important because it works as a catharsis, you know, the term in the ancient tragedy. And it's very important also to try to leverage the collaborative platforms. I mean, to encourage students to collaborate themselves, each other. Social distancing is not only physical, it's only physical, it shouldn't be social distancing. And as I said before, it's important to cultivate creativity. That means that we should choose as teachers activities that focus on challenging tasks, problem-solving tasks, and mostly on creativity. And here I want to say that the integration of arts, very important. especially for young children. Here we saw many art exhibitions worldwide that had a common topic, COVID. And we saw that even in Africa, they did a very extraordinary work. I'm the founder of four international, I forgot to say, four international projects in Africa and India. And I have launched already a new project that's called the COVID of Life-Changing Experience. And there I suggest some teaching activities like create masks with simple materials, with cardboards or tissues, etc. And apart from the informative content, students also created beautiful masks and beautiful paintings where they express their feelings and their experiences and their inner emotions. So I think that there are many, many ways that we could try to implement in order to copy with this traumatic situation. Always based on brain-based strategies. Because social emotional learning should be our priority, not the knowledge-based learning now. Social and emotional learning. Encourage students to express their feelings and propose challenging activities, make our learning more pleasant and enjoyable. Always in collaboration with parents.
Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, next question is for Dr. Manisha Gaur, ma'am. Ma'am, the question is how to inculcate emotional intelligence and positive attitude in students' community, and what are the teaching tools for teachers? Please explain,
Okay.
ma'am, because you said that
Yeah, it's
teaching
very
teachers should
important.
be emotionally intelligent.
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, for the adults,
Yes,
it's
ma'am.
easy to train them in different activities and different tools and techniques. For students, for childrens, we need to make the atmosphere. Even what I understand as a profession of teachers, the profession of teachers are not to teach anything. Profession of teachers are making atmosphere, that kind of atmosphere that the student will learn automatically and learn to learn automatically. Self learning process unke bana, if you make the system like that, self learning process will take up, then only they can learn. So for teachers, if they want to train their students emotionally, and they want to make them emotionally intelligent, the first part is the teacher should be emotionally intelligent. They should not bring their emotions to the classroom. You know, in our family life, in the other world, the life is not going in a straight way. Definitely, we all are facing a bit ups and downs and everything. Suppose the teachers should learn this emotional intelligence, that whatever happens at home or whatever happening in the other world should not enter into the classroom. And they need to learn, they need to understand things on the perspective of children. They need to be in the shoe of the children to understand their mental state, their state of learning, their state of understanding, and then only according to the state of children, whatever their age, whatever their understanding, and they can make different groups, and they can make strategies for different groups. That is, they can make one strategy for everyone, age wise and learning ability wise and group wise. They have to make different type of strategies to train their students in emotional field. Because, and of course, the parent have a very important role here. The teacher need to be, smart enough to make that bonding with parents also. Because when she get that learning that there is something to train in parent also, because a student is spending 4, 5, 6 hours in the school, waste hours of 24 in a day he or she is spending with the family and with the student. So where the things are coming, the teacher need to understand, and teacher need to make a bond between the family and the student and the self and the atmosphere of the class. This is very much important. And if the teacher understand this, that is why I say they need to be trained in psychology. They understand the behavior of children, why it is coming out. If a student is stealing things or taking things without the permission, then why it is doing this? Because in that small age, the student doesn't understand the consequences of this habit. But we understand that we need to get out of him. This habit should not be in his life. So we need to understand the patterns behind that, the atmosphere behind that, the positive intention behind that, and then we need to replace the alternatives for that positive behaviors, and then how the behavior can be changed. The same way, if there are some emotional things are there which a teacher want to change, she need to understand or he need to understand the positive intentions behind that, and need to replace those positive intentions with other activities and other alternatives, and then she can change that emotional behavior. So that there are a lot of activities she need to understand or he need to understand. The teacher need to discuss with. This should be the must topic in the staff room. That we come with this issues in our class, and I come with this issues in the class. They can discuss each other. They can share the problems, and they can give the solutions there. So talking and conversing and finding out different theories and using in different groups is the only way to make the children strong in emotion.
Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, there are many participants who belong to the teaching fraternity in this particular webinar. So, ma'am, you yourself are into taking so many trainings and workshops. Ma'am, are you into developing some kind of course material or something for this, for especially for teachers, which can be recommended to higher education from your side? Are you putting in any efforts for that?
Yeah, we are into the process of making some courses, especially for teachers, because as per every human being, teachers are having a lot of problems in their personal
Yes,
life.
ma'am. Being a teacher,
But
right?
teachers need to know that whether by chance or by opportunity or by choice, if they become teacher, it is a big responsibility over their head, because they can make life of the class and they can spoil the life of the class.
Yes,
It's
ma'am.
very important, and I understand this thing, and as we are making a syllabus for them, and we are already doing a lot of teachers trainings, and we are doing a psychological program for teachers in the upcoming days.
That's nice, ma'am. And I just hope that this just materializes as soon as possible. Thank you, ma'am. My next question is for Ma'am Cassandra Leclerc. Ma'am, are you there? Ma'am, the question is from a participant. The participant says, how to create balance in life? How to create balance in life? Ma'am,
That's such a
how to
wonderful,
create.
that's such
Yes,
a
ma'am,
wonderful.
because you have shared your personal experiences, so definitely you can be the best person to answer this.
Um, in my book, I actually have a quote that says, balance does not mean everything is equal. And I think that that's something that we really have to think about in our lives. We often think that balance, okay, then I have to have everything at the same level. And in reality, that's what can cause that internal tension. And so instead of recognizing the fact that you are going to have times in your life, like where maybe work takes a priority or school takes a priority, and finding ways then when that stress picks up or when those areas are taking more space, how can you still retain space for yourself? And I think like just even having that mindset of looking at balance that way is much different than trying to chase this idea of keeping everything at the same level. So for me, what that really means is I have to be very strict with my boundaries. And this does not come easily for me. especially if somebody wants me to help them, my instinct is to say yes. My instinct is to do that. And so I really have to protect my own boundaries and make sure that I'm saving space for myself in my calendar. Just like, I know it's a very common suggestion, but really keeping time in my schedule. And sometimes that time in my schedule is 5 minutes or 15 minutes, and I might not be doing anything amazing. I might just be sitting with myself and thinking my thoughts or breathing or doing some of the other things that other people have suggested, because that then helps you center yourself again and rebalance. So much of this balance is finding it within yourself and then starting to say no. People don't like to hear that. But another thing of finding balance is really recognizing the areas where you're saying yes, but then you're upset about the fact that you said yes. So a lot of times when people feel overwhelmed, they say, well, I'm so busy. But when you start to ask them about things in their life, a lot of times they're still doing things out of obligation or things that they, well, I don't really want to, but I felt like I should. And it's that piece, stopping the things you should do and instead looking at the things that you actually want to do or need to do for yourself and your well-being. So it really is back to this whole idea of self-awareness. It keeps coming to that, is like, can you take stock of the areas of your life, and not to beat yourself up, not to say, oh, I'm bad at this, but to look at the areas where you can maybe find other spaces for yourself and start to create that. And once you start to do that, you can see how you can find it in other areas too.
Thank you, ma'am. My next question is for ma'am Susie Babia. Ma'am, just because you have a wonderful smile, you were so energetic and lively. The question also suits your personality. It is from a person who wants to be like you. Question is, how to deal with anger, depression, and sadness. How to deal with anger, depression, and sadness. Some quick tips for it, ma'am. There.
Ma'am, unmute yourself.
Ma'am, unmute
Sushi,
yourself.
ma'am.
Right.
Ma'am.
Unmute yourself.
Unmute yourself, please.
Ma'am is there or not?
Ma'am?
Yes, I'm just having trouble hearing you. You sound like a robot.
Yeah, it's okay now. It's okay.
Ma'am, I'll repeat the question, ma'am. Susie, ma'am. Ma'am, the question is how to deal with anger, sadness, and depression so that we all can also be lively and like you.
Well, I mean, I'm not always like this, but I try to. And part of that is, for instance, during COVID, during all this time, I know it's very easy for people to get very down on themselves. And what am I doing? And what can I do? How do I help? Or how do I better myself? Things like that. And I think that instead of focusing inward and internally on ourselves, the best way to get out of that is to, first of all, work through that tension. It's hard, but it can be kind of exhilarating and exciting to work through all that stuff and think outside of the box and focus on others. Really and truly focus on others. Focus on yourself. Self-care is super important. Again, positive coping strategies, super important. But I also feel like if we can kind of get out of our own selves and think about how we can better the world and help better people, and in my personal opinion, most importantly, help children, to help them set a new trajectory for their lives, I think that we then become more joyful.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
My next question, and maybe the last question, is for Dr. Manisha Gaur, ma'am. Ma'am, just because you mentioned about emotional outburst, and when we talk about the people in the corporates, they face a lot of stress, and they are under a lot of pressure as far as the work is concerned. So, ma'am, the question is how to control emotional outburst in corporate life.
Yeah, this
how
is
to
really
control
important. Even if we talk
emotional
about
outburst
depression,
in. Yes,
yeah,
ma'am.
even if you talk about depression, the 40% of the corporate employees, the lot of youngsters are very happy when they have their last semester of the studies and they were ready to have that white collar and tie, and they are ready for that, that we are going to enter into a corporate and we'll get a big office and we'll get this and that and that. And there is a study which is saying that 40% of the corporate people, they are into depression, so they are having a lot of big pressure. So they need to learn actually where to draw a line. I mean, which is the limit of office and which is the limit of their personal things. So they need to understand there are two ways of living life. Number one, personal stuff is always taken priority, because if you're not healthy, I always say the mind, body, and soul, if it is not in one rhythm, then anything you achieve is meaningless. So, whatever time you're giving to your work, whatever you're achieving in terms of money, whatever you're doing in your business, that's a different thing. But there are some rules of your life which need to be followed every day, strictly, every week, every month. Whatever your personal, in the starting of the month, we get the targets from the office and we get the deadlines from the office. But do you have any targets and deadlines for your personal stuff in the starting of the month, in terms of spiritual development, in terms of mental development, in terms of peace development, in terms of happiness increasement, or something like that? So when you don't have your targets, you are just completing your work target. But if you have your target also, then in the starting of the month or starting of the week, you can plan it with your work target, that if I'm giving 8 hours to my work, then this 40 minutes or 50 minutes or 30 minutes or whatever you have for my personal stuff, for my personal development, for my peace and happiness, for my relationships, for everything I belongs to. You know, we forget that we belongs to work and work belongs to we. That's okay. But we belongs to a family and a family belongs to us. That is also important. And we belongs to this cosmos and this cosmos belongs to us. So we forget the sky, the earth, the environment, the water, and the greeneries and everything, and the internal system. So we just become a mechanism to complete a work given by the office, because we are just concentrating the office targets. If we have our own targets also and we balance it with the office target, then this emotional bust out will never come in your life.
Ma'am, there's one more question related to this. It has come just now. It says, depression is biological or physical problem, and how can we identify depression, and what measures to adopt to control depression in early stage?
Depression is, the first answer is every
Biological or.
problem start with your brain, with your mind, and you will get signals from your unconscious that something you're doing wrong and something is being wrong, something is getting wrong. And if you're not getting those signals and working for them, then it comes to your body. So depression is start with your mind, and then if you're not taking care of it, then the symptoms are coming into your body. Okay, the first answer is. And the second is, it's a big, very big subject, and I have a full video, the reasons for depression, symptoms of depressions, and remedies. So if you recommend, and if you allow, I can send the link to you, Indra Bhuvanji and Meeta ji, and you can put it on the YouTube so that all the people can see it. It is covering everything. What are the symptoms, how you get out of it, and what are the remedies?
I'm waiting for the link.
Yeah, it's a big
Uh,
subject.
yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, there's one more question for ma'am Rania Lampo, ma'am. The question is, ma'am, as you had differentiated between IQ and EQ, has shown that differentiation. The question is role of IQ and EQ in current life. We are a part of a fast moving world. Everything has to be quick. We don't have time for anything. So how can we use this IQ and EQ to deal with our situation?
As I aforementioned, research now shows that IQ is not anymore applicable, especially in classroom. We have seen many leaders who were not very intelligent when they were at school, but with a high degree of emotional intelligence, they have achieved to have a very high positions. So as I said before, also there is the multiple intelligence theory that I said before, which tries to find the balance between the two hemispheres of the brain. I mean, the IQ responds to the left right part of the brain, which is the part of analysis and critical thinking, and the right part of the brain, which is the part of intuition, creativity, emotion. So what we try as teachers to explore both parts and implement activities that would combine both of them. I mean, language teaching, mathematical teaching is not anymore. It's not it's not applicable. Understand? We need to implement activities that enhance creativity, musical learning, for example, kinesthetical learning, visual learning. All that reinforces our senses, our emotions, our creativity, and at the same time develop the integrity and integral personality, a global. I mean that we need to adopt a holistic learning. IQ and EQ at the same time. This is Daniel Goleman says, we have two brains, two minds, an emotional and an IQ. So far, the traditional educational system gives priority, unfortunately, only to language and mathematical skills, which is very wrong because, as we said before, there are some students that teach through vision, other learn through vision, others learn through music, others learn through theater, for example, or the personal skills. So we need to find a balance, as Cassandra said before, a balance also in our teaching practices for our students, to target the whole brain and the whole system, the whole personality, not only EQ, but AQ as well.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. My last question is for ma'am Cassandra. Ma'am, this question is, ma'am, are you there? Ma'am Cassandra Lee Claire? Ma'am, the question is silence a part of positive or negative emotions? Many times people carry so much of baggage that they do not want to talk about it. They just stay silent. So what are your views regarding that? Is it a part of positive or negative emotions?
I think it honestly depends on why the silence is there. So if you are not ready to talk about whatever it is, your crisis, your stress, your trauma, your bad day, if somebody tries to force you to speak about that, that can actually be more damaging and that can be difficult. But what is also difficult is if you inhibit all of your emotions from ever coming out. So if you're remaining silent because you don't want to talk, but you have other forms of emotional expression, that's wonderful and that's healthy. But if you are always remaining silent because you feel you don't have other spaces or you're worried about saying anything, then that's where it can be unhealthy. And that's what's unfortunate, is that so often people might not be ready to talk because they might fear other people's reactions. Maybe they want to say something, but they're not sure how another person's response is going to be. And that's why our responses to others are so important too. And so if you're finding a space where you don't feel, where you feel you want to be silent, again, I would just really encourage you to think about why that is. And if it's because you're fearful, then that's usually a good sign that you do need to find somebody to talk to about that or find other ways. And especially when you think about this with children, and not even just children, not everybody's a verbal communicator. So some people, the things that we're talking about with the drawing and the writing, getting outside, for some people it's singing, for some, you know, whatever it is, that emotional expression to help move things through your body. And if for you that's not talking right now, that's okay. Don't beat yourself up about that, because then that's a whole other issue. So allow yourself to think about what the silence means, I guess.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Now, I wish to thank from the bottom of my heart to all the speakers for this amazing session. And we all are truly blessed to have you all with us here today. And now over to Indra Bhuvan Singh, sir, to come up with a formal vote of thanks.
Thank you so much, Nita ma'am, for your wonderful presentation and organizing the audience in a good way. And it was really nice. I am really very amazed, and it was really very informative session, I can say, and mesmerizing session, and especially Raya Lampu, Dr. Manisago, Tusi, Rajendra, means I can say fantastic way of presenting things, and very very informative session, and wonderful knowledge sharing from their practical experiences, what you learn in your life during the childhood or in the practical life, in this corporate life. I have just sum up with some presentation with all my guest speakers, especially start with the Dr. Rania Lampu. Some points, these bullet points I can say, are leader born or made? That's a very relevant question in current scenario, and it's really, I can say, people know this. And one thing I want to add here: leaders don't force people to follow. Leaders don't force people to follow. They invite them on a journey. So leaders create leaders. Leader never want my people should just follow me. If I am leader, he want everybody should be my replica. Like if I can say Dr. Manisha Gaur ma'am, and what I feel and observe presentation, she want to make herself to other people. If somebody is coming in her this motivational classes or this transformational session, she want to make one more Manisha Gaur. Right, ma'am? If I'm not wrong. So I can't.
Not enough for one. We need
More.
more. We need a lot of Manisha, a lot of Cassandra, a lot of
Yeah, lot of Susie.
Krista.
Yes. So I can see this positivity, and I can see that positive vibes in all my guest speakers. Especially, I would like to pay my bottom of heart thanks to Dr. Susi. Today, means she wake up so early in the morning for this webinar. It was really, I'm really thankful to you, Susi, for your kind gesture, and from your busy schedule, you took your time to attend this webinar. It was really a pleasure to us, and especially for this Cassandra, your childhood example that give us encouragement, especially for the young generation, youngsters, those who sometimes feel frustrated or losing control in some sort of emotions, balancing. So your encouraging words, your motivational words, that will give the encouragement to coming generations how they can control the emotions in a good way. Again, last but not the least, what I feel, I would like to sum up with all this presentation part. Basically, what I feel, emotions is nothing, but it's a perception. It's a, how you perceive, how you feel others, how you react. And emotion is very, very pure. And emotion is beyond caste, creed, nationality, and any nation. Emotion is emotion. We cannot restrict emotion to certain boundaries. I am from India, you are from USA, somebody is from Africa. We all are human beings and we all have same uniform level of emotions. Intensity can vary. That can be plus and minus. That can be 19 and 20. But the bottom line is we all are emotional people. And same thing as Rani Alampu said in her presentation, what we are going to replicate, we are going to get it back. Even Dr. Manisha Gormam also said same thing. If you spread love, love will come back to you. If you spread hatredness, it will come back to you. So it all depends on our way of doing the things, how we are perceiving the things. And I think so, in current scenario, the right time has come to control our emotions in a very nice way, in a very good way, and where we can spread a sense of humanity, we can spread a sense of this honesty to the peoples all across the world, because of this current pandemic situation. Everywhere people is very, very frustrated, demotivated, discouraged because of many, many reasons. So I think so this topic, emotional intelligence, is rightly fit in the current dynamic situation, and where all the people has to think which mode they want to adopt in their life, like this fight or flight. There is always two ways to control, to see the situation. If you are a fighter nature, if you are a positive guy, if you are optimistic, you are going to fight. But if you are pessimistic, negative mindset, then you are going to flight. So we have to fight, we have to be ready to see any kind of situation. And I think so that is the crux of this whole webinar presentation. And we should always be positive in our attitude. We should always spread the positivity all across the world. And once again, thank you so much, ma'am, from my bottom of heart, from on behalf of Devaditya Foundation, for your wonderful attendance and your presence and your informative knowledge sharing with us. And we are really, really blessed, humbled, and honored. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much. And very soon we are going to see you for next webinar. And Meeta ma'am is going to announce very soon. Thank you so much.
Should I close, sir?
Yeah, please.